Welcome, everybody, to Living Love, the podcast where we explore what it means to walk through life anchored in God's unshakable love. Here we celebrate stories of resilience, creativity, and purpose so we can remind each listening heart that God meets us right where we are. Welcome again to the podcast, and just remember that here on Living Love, we journey through what it means to live embraced by God's love in every season, in every calling. And today's episode is certainly going to be a blessed one. So if you ever have needed before just a refreshing insight on what it is to encounter God and what he can do just with his people in the right place at the right time, tonight will definitely deliver. I am so honored to introduce tonight's guest, Ryan Bailey. He's with Foster Kids United. Ryan, welcome to Living Love.
Thank you. I'm absolutely super excited to be here. And so it's a very big blessing, and I count all that to God, let alone the things He's building in our lives. And so, with what you shared about where you're going in the journey, let alone the people we might reach, this is a very exciting just endeavor to share what the love of God can do within people's lives.
Certainly. And I just want to say again, thank you for even taking time out to speak with us today. I think we both shared a little pre episode that everything that's centered around God's love we know can show up and show out like no one else can explain. And so, with that, give us a little tidbit about what you have going on over at Foster Kids United.
Well, Foster Kids United has been one of those God given endeavors, which definitely comes with the ups and downs. I truly believe, like James 1 says, that we need to find joy when our trials begin because they produce perseverance. Well, when you're beginning anything and you know that God has given you a heart for it, believe me that the resistance, for one, the devil, is just going to do all that it can in its power to try to bring some mountains that seem almost impassable. And so, with God, I just give him the credit in the journey of what we're doing. And to kind of break it down into how it began and what we actually do is my wife, in her walk, which is now with Jesus, which is amazing. In her younger years, she kind of aged out of the foster care system. She was there from 11 to 18. And so you kind of learn to understand this gap of love where it becomes unrecognizable that there was a misplaced, misguided situation that led to somebody kind of falling short, the underdog. And so they're turning 18, they're an adult, and that is complicated enough for those of us who know how to handle it, let alone you're fresh out of being controlled and guided and, just led and instructed on kind of what to do in life. And so my wife, she learned very fast that life can be difficult. Things like college applications, when you're doing the FAFSA, what do you do when you've been through the foster care system and it asks for your parents' income? I mean, there's so many little things that the devil can use to try to derail people's processes. So the heart of the matter came from her personal experience. That trial, the storm, the torment, that what feels miserable to us, God can actually use for some of his biggest blessings. Foster Kids United, the heart of the matter just came from the trials that, my wife experienced. Sometimes that fire that God walks us through serves a purpose bigger than ourselves. And so during those seasons, she was full of frustration and anger and felt like the world was against her, which I understand from my personal experience as well.
Mhm.
The world is a difficult place. And so her heart was developed by the experiences that she went through. And so, as she kind of grew up and aged out of the foster care system, she ran into the roadblocks like college and understanding, well, how you report your parents' income and all these things, which kind of put delays in her overall goals or aspirations that she had for her near future. So she kind of set those things apart and set them down. And so throughout the years and learning to kind of overcome that trauma and those experiences that we have when we were younger, she found the heart to want to share love where there feels to be a lack of it. Not that there isn't any, but when you're 18 and you feel like you've been forgotten your whole life and nobody is there for you, they care, they tell you they care, but then at the end of the day, you feel lost and alone. That we decided to build Foster Kids United as a nonprofit to help bridge the gap for the youth that are aging out of the foster care system. And so we offer things like life skills, a mentorship program that, helps them overcome things like apartment applications, understanding credit, how to fix a flat tire if needed, just, to be that support system that they kind of felt might not be there otherwise. And so it's really all about love, love for what it means in our heart has to do with even the way Jesus walked, meeting people where they're at, not where we want them to be. With all the goals and the aspirations that we could have as we're building people up, those are great goals to have. But to really love somebody is to truly meet them where they're at, and not where our expectations are what the world standard should tell them that they should be. And so here you are, you have a lost, alone, you know, youth that's felt unlovable possibly their whole life, that then tends to lead to homelessness, drug addiction, jail, just really strong stereotypes that are out there, that we wanted to help
Sure.
build something that voided that gap, that built the bridge that supports love. Because in my walk personally with God, I learned a long time ago that only with love is love awakened. I love the Bible. I love Jesus. He has taken so much control over my life and blessed me in so many ways. But that still doesn't mean I could go out into the world and throw a Bible at somebody to the point that they can read it. But I definitely can go out there and love them until they see Jesus in action. And sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes loving them until they feel that they're worthy of love can be that inspiration that says, this isn't a miserable tunnel and there is light at the end of it. And so Foster Kids United is designed specifically for that. Feel a need, provide love, where these youth just kind of feel forgotten and left out. And so it's a very big aspiration to all that we have building on in our lives, but that's the one that our hearts go into the most, just because we know what that feeling of being unloved or forgotten feels like. And so that's where the heart of the matter came from for Foster Kids United. And it's been such a blessing, even though the trials come.
I can't even imagine. I mean, in my counseling, I do youth counseling as well. So I've encountered maybe one or two cases that are very similar to what you're doing within your ministry. And it's unreal. I mean, when these kids are sharing their feelings, they're doing things that normal adults don't even take the grasp of, because we all have had that opportunity to learn and to do and to have guidance and have mentorship like you offer. And I think it's so important to just recognize that one factor that everybody knows. I mean, everybody has a story. Everybody's walking around with some type of hurt or some type of trauma.
Yeah,
Everyone has something going on. And so, what the message that you're putting out there that I agree with you wholeheartedly is that the easiest thing we can do is just love on someone and practice kindness
yep,
and show the hands and feet of Jesus, just being that salt and light and showing that if you rely, on yourself, not much can get done. But if you turn your eyes towards the Lord, he can walk every step of the way with you. He is literally, quite literally, the only one that can meet us exactly where we are with such unconditional, just righteous love that is so beyond any words could describe in this lifetime.
absolutely. And a little bit of love can go such a long way.
hmm
And I think individually in our daily walks, it can become not like out of sight, out of mind, but we don't know that that little act of love, those kind words, that smile, we don't know what it did to change that person's life. And so that's why Jesus called us to walk forward in love. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, but love your neighbor as yourself. And so part of that comes with challenges. Loving people is challenging.
hmm
These youth, they come from histories of trauma, neglect, just abandonment. And so their ability to open up takes a lot of tilling, like God calls that there's those that plant and those that water.
hmm
Well, what I've learned too, there are two very different aspirations that involved the tilling of the ground and the planting of the seed versus watering that hope that's in there. Tilling that ground, tearing up those trees, removing the rocks, those
hmm
strongholds that the devil has built inside of you, that is a difficult process that can only be overcome with love. And so when I say that only with love is love awakened, I wholeheartedly believe that because I've watched that love in action, not with the purpose, not serving a good, but just to simply love the person for who they are. And because of that, might have taken a couple years, might have taken some time for them to watch God in action, but the fruit was developed through the love. And so for me, especially over the last few weeks, and not to turn this into a real heavy discussion, but one that I feel is really important, is that
Absolutely.
the Bible tells us that faith, hope, and love are the keys, right? They're the keys to walking as Jesus did. Faith, hope, love. Well, the
Mhm.
greatest of these is love. The word and the standard and the way that we've looked at it, and the Bible talks about, well, a tax collector loves a tax collector as well. So what good is that? But when it comes to the word greatest of these is love, I don't think that necessarily wholeheartedly means that that's the greatest thing we can do, but it also takes the greatest amount of effort to love that broken person, to
Right.
love that person that feels like the whole world is against them and doesn't want to be comforted, that wants to push people away. But you can find that consistency, that sustaining love that Jesus gave to us that says, I forgive you, let alone if you've experienced being able to say, I understand.
Mhm.
And so my walk has not always been a great one. The way that Foster Kids United has come about has been such a blessing that I'll give to God, let alone the motorcycle ministry we've built, the book that's come, through God and his message that he shared with me, but just overall, the circumstances that I have found myself in life have not always been desirable. They came from sometimes my own irresponsible decisions.
Sure.
Sometimes, like Joseph, it comes from the stirring of the pot, or Job, just trying to help God build you up, test of faith, regardless of what the situation was. What I've learned is that through those trials, that's where God has always taught me the most. But most importantly, all that came with wisdom. All that came with understanding. Now, the world will tell you good wisdom and good understanding is how to be a proper, healthy, loving human being, get a job, be productive, care for your family, all that stuff is great. And that's the goals we're reaching towards. But to have the understanding of what it feels like to be Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego standing in the fire and having God walked you out of it, to say, I understand you, sometimes that's the biggest gift we can give somebody. And so every bad day I've ever had, every stupid decision I've walked myself into, now has become something God can use for his kingdom. It's not a downfall anymore. It's not a stronghold. And the devil still tries to come tell me you're worthless and you've broken so many things in your life. What good do you think you could do in the future? But the thing is me doing good in the future, all that takes is my dependence upon God. I know I'm broken. I can look back over my life and see the broken pieces that makes me. But with God, him being the potter, he can glue all those pieces together that the devil says is worthless and
Mhm.
make something beautiful. And so that's why Foster Kids United, our ministry, is named after the book in a way, but it's ATF. We acceptance, trust, and we faith. We walk in faith. But our motto is bring the broken. Because in my mind, those of us who have experienced the most brokenness have more to give to a broken world. And so, in no way, shape, or form does that discount what the churches are doing. I love them. They're important. We need them, that community. That's where we grow together. But
Mhm.
to till the land, to tear down trees, God needs people to know what that wilderness looks like and feels like, and what the victory can feel like to overcome it. And so I wouldn't change any bad day I've ever had for anything, because now God can use it to help somebody else. And if what I had to experience then does some good for somebody else in the future, then I don't care how much torment I got to go through in my life. It was worth it. It was worth it. If I help one person, it was worth it. And it all breaks it down to love. The greatest of these is love. Learning to let go of our judgments, let go of, the overall appearance, and try to see as God does the heart, or that broken child that's on the inside, not the adult frustrated with actions coming on the outside.
Yeah.
Because when you can see what's in the cup and not what's on outside of the cup, you can start filling the cup instead of making the cup look prettier. And so it's such an important aspect to everything that we're doing. And so, like I said, when it came to your title and living love, like it meant the world to me because if it could express what we are trying to accomplish, those words are dead on. And so I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate for the chance of being here and just being able to share not only what we're doing, but the hope that comes through people's testimonies, that the victories do come. And just to share a little bit about my personal testimony so other people can relate to when I say I didn't have a great life. And some of that, like I said, at my own accord, is by 15, I had 5 felonies. Stepdad issues, circumstances unfolded, but it unfolded the wrong direction. So by, 18, 19, 20, you already feel like your life is over. They tell you a felon can't get a job. Your life is basically ruined. And so when you're starting out in this journey where I've known God since I was a kid, but now I'm going through circumstances I don't understand,
Yeah.
that understanding can kind of create some disappointment, which can also create some separation with God, because our expectations are not meeting reality. And so through that, my anger, my hurt, that hurting people hurt people, I was just so tormented on the inside over my own brokenness, let alone family circumstances that were kind of unfolding. But that pain led to more pain, which led to more pain. But the one thing that I will add into that is every decision, every broken decision that I made, God still used it to try to connect with me. If I'd end up in jail, first thing I would do is be in a Bible. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I got in trouble with family, first thing I do is jump in the Bible. So even though in my torment, I was jumping to the right places, in my Monday through Saturday life, I was jumping to the world. And so my priorities weren't in the right direction. And through other hard circumstances, God helped me learn where those pedestals lie
Sure.
and where to put him on the pedestal.
Yeah.
That helping learn to gain that it wasn't torment that I went through, but now lessons that could be used to give to somebody else. It takes what used to be pain and used to be strongholds and used to be torment and now gives it out for glory and something good. So now what was had no purpose at all
Right.
has purpose because of him. And so the encouragement of even the most broken circumstances we've walked through or had to try to survive through, with God, He can turn those into blessings because we don't know how our story might connect with that one person that
Yeah,
needs to
so
hear
Ryan,
it.
if I could actually just stop you there for a quick second and let's just like let this first little part of your testimony marinate a little bit because I'm certain for somebody who's listening who might relate a little bit, they're going, man, he sounds just like what my troubled past looked like. I could share my own little tidbit alongside yours where so the audience can really connect with what we're trying to prove here. And it's these encounters with God and it's how they go so far beyond, you out
Absolutely.
loud just admitted to having so many felonies at the age of 15. And so for someone that's not something to just brush past in a testimony. I mean, that's your starting point. That is where you saw that fork in the road to go, hey, let's have a normal life, or it just kind of got derailed. I can share similarly that I grew up as a military brat in Germany all through my 15 years old. So by 15, I'm growing up in Europe. There's, cigarette machines on the sidewalk that you can just, drop a coin into. So I had been smoking and drinking. If you can see over the
Yeah.
bar there, they'll serve you, okay? So
Yeah.
this
And
is,
I'm 5 feet tall, so I still don't think I'd meet those requirements. But I get what you're saying because
yeah,
smoking at 12, 13,
so
right
for
there with you.
people who hadn't had that, rough past that they need to connect somehow, it's not so much that we glorify that part of our starting point, but it's just the raw reality of where so many people start and not too many people give the attention to because you really got to stop and know where you came from for people to see what God has done now. And so out loud when I start with people's testimonies, so say like I would like you to just do a small exercise I do with people, and it's going to be so impactful in the episode, and you'll see why. Say who you were in the beginning, and then match that with your titles and where you're walking now. Because I'll do the same with you after, and it can show people what literally like night and day, black and white, walking without and with Jesus would look like.
Absolutely. And, just to try to help open doors, because where you're going with that is very important. God, even having introduced himself to me at a young age, I went to a Christian daycare, which was outside of my family dynamic.
Yeah,
So I take it as he introduced himself to me as my loving Father in heaven. Now, through the things we don't understand, my anger and my hurt and my pain, and you're God, you're supposed to take care of us, my pain and rejection kind of felt like it was coming from him. And so, that anger, that hurt, that pain, that even though I knew God, that just selfishness, it's me against the world because nobody really cares. That attitude really picked up in what how my actions were, where my decisions came from, my whole outlook on life and how you treat people. Some people here today, gone tomorrow, part of life, people leave. You just learn to pick up on these unhealthy living uh kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
coping mechanisms. I mean, you get
Yes,
into these
cope
unhealthy habits.
core attitudes and belief. That's where I
Yeah.
was going. Coping mechanism. They become core attitudes and beliefs. And so I believed nobody really cared. So I'm going to take care of myself. And this whole time, God, intermix of it all, kept trying to reveal himself, reveal himself, reveal himself. And even though each lesson led to something grateful, to find the peace that you are so heartedly searching for, the freedom just to beyond the torment of what life seemed to be, that why are we even existing, to man, all that torment was actually meant for good, and now I can do
Exactly.
good things with it. The difference is night and day, and you can feel it and see it in your everyday walk. It's not in the actions where I decided to do something nice for somebody, or I woke up and said, today I'm going to go do this to make myself feel better. It comes out in the natural. It comes out in where your heart's at, the man follows. And so you start speaking life to people. You start speaking against when people are like, I'm just not smart enough to handle
Mm-hmm.
that. Well, let me tell you, you are. Just because we got to learn how to do it doesn't mean you're dumb. And so we start learning to take what used to torment us as strongholds and fight back against them. And so,
Yeah.
like I said, I wouldn't change my past for anything. In the heat of the moment, I would have probably changed any single day for any one of them. But hindsight's 2020, and when God gets a hold of you and he starts showing you what it meant, I wouldn't change anything for any of it because it helped build not just who I am today, but the heart that we carry today, the family that is building behind that heart
Yeah, I
that is
totally think you
Christ's
can
heart.
agree with me when I say it's a renewal of the mind. It's a breakdown of the
Hmm.
heartstrings. Like you totally change your whole posture when you are breathing and walking and doing this faith journey. It's such a journey. It really is. Like imagine, I mean, addicted to alcohol, pills, party
Hmm.
girl lifestyle. I mean, a single mother, a child out of wedlock, like all of those titles is something that I really, really resonated with at some point in my life. And then I just gave all that to the
Absolutely.
feet of the cross. I mean, I put it all down. It's one thing to have it and carry it. And if any listener can hear our voices right now, just know like whatever it is that is burdening you, Jesus's burden is so much easier. And
It
handing it
is.
all over to him sounds so challenging. But then that switched me from all those other titles to counselor, to mother, to wife, daughter of a king, person who you can always come to for love and encouragement. And it's something that is a total, I mean, people look at me now, they're like, wait a second, you used to be this burnt out party girl, always, I mean, like
Absolutely.
handing her paycheck over to the bar on Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, going to church on Sunday just to clean up a little bit, just to do it all over again the next week. So,
Yeah, are you sure we weren't friends? Because
yeah,
everything you're expressing is, I mean, I'm literally walking through my timeline of yep, yep,
yeah,
yep,
yeah.
yep,
And that's
yep,
why I
yep,
want
did
you to
that.
share your titles too so people can see. I mean, it's transformational.
It is transformational. And at 15, just walking through that in general and trying to figure out what kind of life you'd have before that, that hurting people, hurt people, and my own pain led to more. I could ultimately right now tell you, alcoholic, absolutely. I have 7 DUIs. 3 of those are misdemeanors. In
Yeah,
total, 10 felonies, 30 misdemeanors. None of them bank robbery. None of them robbery. None of them I go out and hurt people. But every single one of them was a infliction against myself.
yeah.
And for one, DUIs, I, there was other people liable, and I am so grateful God had my back that in none of one of those situations did somebody end up hurt. And that's what I would encourage anybody. The
Amen.
seemingly unimportant decisions we make today have an effect.
They
Everything
do.
has a ripple effect. So thankful for God, but through all that torment and all that trouble, my life really did, per the devil's standard, tell you it's over. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. Give it up
Oh,
now. And
surely, yeah.
that's the lie that I want to hinder and stop being built, especially when it comes to any of these youth,
Yes.
because their whole life they've been told, you're barely going to get, if you can get a job, then you made it. But more so than that, you've got love and a history and a testimony that really could change somebody's life
Mm.
if somebody shared a little bit of love with you. And so that's what we all bring it back to, is just love
I
our
love the
neighbor as we love
advocating.
ourselves,
I'm so
regardless.
down for the advocating. The advocating part is like the most for me. Similarly, and we'll get into your next ministry because I want to learn and let the audience hear more about what else you have going on. But single mothers get casted aside, like unreal. Like you won't know it unless you
Yep.
walk through it, okay? As a single mother, there's so many more lies. As a foster kid, I'm sure
Mm.
there's so many more lies. As an addict, as a felon, as anything else, we carry that 10 or 20 pounds more than any other regular person dealing with regular life stuff. And so, what it does is it catapults our heart into, that lake of fire where the devil can just totally grasp at us. And I
And
want
just
you to
feels
share
like
this.
it strangles
Yeah,
you.
I want you to share this too, like the lies that you believed in for a little bit, but then when you just decided to lay it all down, give it to Jesus, how much harder the devil might have come after you. Because I'm telling you, I would be choosing between electricity or groceries, and then groceries would show up on the doorstep. I would be begging God, like, please give me enough rest in the like 4 or 5 hours that I would get each night to do a whole nother like 3 jobs, picking up a kid from daycare. You know what I mean? So, like,
Yes.
share those moments. What did he do for you to
Yes.
show up and show out?
The the amount of testimonies, like, honestly, it's crazy sometimes when I think about the stories that I read through the Bible, and then the correlation, Old Testament, New
Mm,
Testament, the correlation I can have with experiences that I've lived through. Sometimes I wonder if God is walking us through the Bible and the experiences that they go through, because the provision, the love, the support that
yeah.
he's given 100-fold. Today, there's something I proclaim all the time to everybody. I do not care whether I have $1 in a bank account or a million, because he's walked us through seasons where I would even call our monk season,
Hmm.
where he isolated everybody away. We prayed for friends, couldn't have any, but also manna season, where each day you could have a worry about a bill due tomorrow and the one that you took care of today. But that manna season, every day he provided what we needed. Not everything that we wanted, but every day, everything we needed. And so when you start taking those baby steps with God, and it comes with a choice, and sometimes we have to choose to trust. Sometimes we have to say, the devil's bringing in a lot of noise. I'm going to shut that door, and I'm going to say, I got nothing left to give you, God, but I'm going to trust you with it.
Yeah.
And that gives him the ability to open the door where he comes through. And once you just really start letting that heart be open to the possibility of all that God can do for you, it's exactly when he starts to show up. We'd have bills where our power bill would be exceedingly high for a month, and we don't know what we're going to do. It's like $800. We're doing this,
Yeah.
doing that, trying to build ministries, all this stuff, and you feel all on your own. Sometimes, financial resources are depleted, but that doesn't stop what God is building and doing. But here we are, a bill we could have stressed over. And so we prayed on it. And we go to church that next weekend. And in the middle of service, the pastor's wife, both pastor and wife, close friends with, but not close enough that we would share that kind of sensitive
Sure.
information with,
Yeah.
that in the middle of service, during worship, the pastor's wife, felt the need, felt compelled by God, that God was telling her that she needed to help support the Bailey family. And she's like, okay, God, kind of out of the blue, but what do you need? And this is all during worship,
Yeah.
singing music, lights are down. I mean, it's instantaneous, not drawn out, not weeks. And she's having this conversation with God and says, okay, God, I trust you. You provide for us, I will provide. What would you like me to do? And he's like, well, let's do some financial support. She's like, okay. She's like, Is $100 a month? Is that going to be good? God's like, nope, not quite enough. And she's like, okay, well, 250. He's like, nope, still, let's go up the number. All the way to the point after 4 or 5 arguments, not arguments, but of the
Back and
debate
forth.
to figure out,
Yeah.
landed on the 800, the exact amount of money we needed for that bill that no one else had known about except for our prayers. So right after they get done worship, Tara had snuck off to the side and wrote a check. She folded it up so that when she handed it to my wife wouldn't quite know what it was or what it was for. And so in church, handed it to her. My wife's like, oh, okay, great. Stuck it in her pocket. I guess we'll figure out what the details are after because, we're trying to sell a few of my books or,
Sure.
we bring in some donations for Foster Kids United. So there was no specific on, well, you're handing us a check. Great. But very clearly, and after church, when she specified what was happening and what God had told her, it was very clearly God had initiated this entire process that helped our save our power from being turned off completely. All at nothing we done except for a prayer from ourselves and the community that has a heart that loves other people. Love other people as you would love yourself. If God puts somebody on your mind, pray for them. We don't know what it's about, but we don't need to. He does.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of love can go such a long way. And so
My
outside
cheeks
of a
hurt
million
from
other,
smiling at that story.
I
That's
know.
amazing. I love it when God shows up like exactly like that because you cannot say that it was anything else but him. I love those stories.
There is no denial. And I would throw this out there too, that there are sometimes, especially for your listeners, there are sometimes, and I reference this a lot, the man born blind since birth. Jesus, they went through the whole debate, figured out the man had been born blind since birth. They worried about what the parents' sins were and all this. Jesus says there was no sin. He was born for a time as this,
Yeah.
so that Jesus could heal them and reveal the power and the glory of God. So sometimes the experiences that we're having, even though they feel miserable or they feel from our perspective just absolutely tormented, by learning to surrender them over to God or learning to let go or learning to just say, okay, God, I'm going to give it to you so I can walk in faith because we don't know what my neighbor might be watching.
Mm-hmm.
All of it leads to where his fruit and his glory get to be revealed. And so sometimes he pushes us not beyond our limits, but onto the limits where his ability to provide is what supersedes our fleshly worry and decision
Sure.
making that we think we can do and fix. Now, on another not so deep note, but trying to keep it light, in line with that decision making that we decide when we're worried about this or want to budget that and we feel like nothing's coming in and the devil's taking everything away. Our household, we call the tree of knowledge of good and evil the tree of we know better. We simply call it that because sometimes when we're going through things, the devil might torment us, the devil might be teasing us here, taking some away. That the tree of we know better is, well, if I do that, I could fix it. I could have the knowledge of God. To put it in a simple aspect, if somebody was starving and homeless and said, I just need to steal a sandwich, and if I don't steal a sandwich, I'm gonna die. And so, in their rationality, they go and they steal a sandwich. Well, that sandwich has a store. Store has an owner. To that owner, that's theft. That's hurt. That's pain. That's something that they have gone through now that brought their life down and hindered and hurt them. But to the person who the devil lied to, said, if you don't get this sandwich, you're going to die, all of it intertwines. He chose the tree of we know better instead of praying, instead of going out and saying, look, Lord, I feel if I don't steal something, I might die. Will you provide? So, in the concept, that's what the tree of we know better means to
I
us.
love that.
Sometimes in our flesh, we make decisions hastily because we think we know how we're going to fix the problem, when all reality, the problem was already resolved. We just had to have the faith to walk it out. And so it is like a dance with Jesus
It is
to
so
have that
daily
give
too.
and take.
It's got to be daily. And so if there's any encouragement here to live loved, it's to really just instead of focusing on what God can do for you or what you can do in obedience for God, just learning each other's heart posture, like you were saying in the beginning, a lot of this comes rooted from that space and place and it's in the Bible that everything that flows from our heart is what we kind of focus on. And so if you're focusing on these worries or fears or bad habits or addictions or troubled times, like that's what's going to flow from your heart. And so just laying all that
Absolutely.
down and focusing on love and kindness and fruitfulness, gentleness, long suffering, all these fruits of the Spirit that you can find in your Bible, you may be able to do, like you gave some amazing analogies earlier of characters in the Bible that might be relatable, and you can read their stories and meditate over them and see what God did. If anything, I'm like woman at the well who's scared to come and be with everybody. As a single mother, it was so hard. It was so hard to get on that path of trusting and learning and believing and just letting it go and making sure that I was ready to receive that next blessing. I mean, there were times where I would budget so hard, like you were saying, and I would get paid from a random job, and I completely would forget that it's in, my Venmo or whatever. And I'm on hard times,
Yep.
and I go to, pay somebody for something and try to scrounge funds together, and here's $100 sitting there, and I'm a single mom, okay? So every single penny in my household was accounted for. But God made me have a little amnesia for a second so I could have $100 later. And when I started tithing, my very first big tithing
Yep.
after a tax season was like $500 was my 10%. And I was reeling, man. I was like, do you know what $500 can do for a single mother? Like, that can stretch us out a few months. And I just had a really great partner at the time, in a relationship that really spoke over that doubt and that fear. And he was telling me, just if you can't do anything else, just try it. Like, just try God. Just see what He does. And so I
Yep.
tithed it, and checks were showing up in the mail. And I was
Yes.
such a crazy believer. I would stare at people like they had like an alien on their forehead. Like, I'm like, there's no person on this planet in this day and age that's sending checks for no reason. When mine came, I said, God, this is such a big mistake. I'm gonna be. I called. I said, "Hey, what is this? Where's it from? Who's gonna come collecting it when I spend it or whatever?" They were like,
Exactly.
they were
Exactly.
like, "We don't know. We don't know. Don't send it back. We don't want it. It's already there. Cash it. Go have fun." Like, and so
Yep.
after that, I was like, "Well, okay, God, like, okay."
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. And
after
at that
that, it
point, all
was
you can do
so
is be
easy to
astonished.
trust. He'll take your trust, and not only will he just like throw it back in your face and just be like, I got this,
Yep.
he will show you on the other side of it, like how silly it was to even worry about $500 when he was going to replenish that much more. It's almost like this picture
Yes.
that floats around on social media, if anybody's seen it, of God having a huge teddy bear behind your back, and he's trying to grab that one tiny little teddy bear
The
from
little
your
one.
hand,
Yes. And I
and he's
love
just
that
saying, like,
picture.
trust me, like, I'm going to replace it. And so, like the woman at the well, when Jesus snatched me up and got a hold of my heart and started saying, like, believe me, trust me, I'm here for you. I'm so for you. I will never forsake you. I'm never going anywhere. You promised your life to me. And so that's it. Like, we're in it. Like, that's such a covenant promise that people don't realize we can enter
Yep.
into. But then Jesus is going to show up and he's going to work, man. And so after
Absolutely.
all that love and blessing and just a season of single motherhood where I was so covered and it was nobody else but God, that woman at the well moment where I then turn and just go start shouting to the rooftops and telling everyone, shaking
Yep.
them by the shoulders, like, do you know who this Jesus guy is? Like, I have to tell
Yes.
you. And so I think it's
Yes.
amazing, even within your ministry, how many lives you're touching, that they will be able to share moments like that in the future too, where someone breathed that life and gave them that direction and stood with them and held them. That's amazing. Before the episode wraps up, though, I want you to talk a little bit about your motorcycle ministry and a book and where people can find it and how we can connect with you.
That sounds good. And I will very clearly just throw some ad notes on the last little conversation. One of the things that God taught me over the last few years, because there are times you have no finances. I
Yeah.
love the woman that only had 2 pennies and she was going to give it all away. Sometimes you don't have that. God taught me that there are different ways as well. Time, talents, and treasures.
I love
Okay,
that.
we can give money, tithing, we can do that. Sometimes if we don't have that time, go listen to someone. Go spend some time loving someone else. Give some love away.
Yes.
And then the treasures, that could be the same thing. If you have the ability to help people build and they're working on, go give your time. It doesn't always have to be you're at the church, here
Hmm.
comes a plate, stick your money in it. Hopefully, it's not just that, it's the heart of the matter. God wants, He doesn't need our money. He wants to see that we trust Him versus you can't serve God and manna, and
Yeah,
so or God and mammon, so God or money. And so it's the heart of the matter. God doesn't need us, He wants us. And are
always.
we willing to say, choose? I choose you back. And so the motorcycle ministry and all of it really stemmed from the book. And it all comes back through the torment that I was experiencing. Like I said, God introduced himself to me when I was a kid. And so I grew up with the loving aspiration. This is my loving Father in heaven. Well, then you get teenage years. My grandpa dies. He was my best friend.
Hmm.
My dad comes around, promises a bunch of things, just a bunch of broken life situations where you feel neglected, forgotten, all this. Well, my grandpa dies, and looking to God, like, you took the person that I needed the most, right?
Hmm.
It just kind of stemmed this pain cycle that I kind of ended up in. And so throughout that and through my journeys of different ups and downs, in my desperation to find how Paul could be content in all situations, content whether he had a little, whether he had a lot, whether life was good or whether he was in prison,
Yeah.
didn't matter. He had found the way to be content. Well, here I am struggling, knowing that faith is what pleases God, but I'm finding myself in all these situations where I have no idea how to see how it's going to work out for good. So,
Hmm.
how am I supposed to have faith? So, I must be a disappointment to God because faith is what pleases him. I have no faith, disappointment. So desperation, the brokenness, that fire that sometimes God removes to help refine us a little bit more, came down to the desperation of I need answers. I need to know how to I give my life to you because I'm an overthinker. I will overthink everything. You give me one problem, I have 14 solutions. And so there I was, and it would keep me up at night. I would have a problem. I'd solve it I'd solve it, not on a piece of paper, but in my mind. But then there would come the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. All of a sudden, I solved 15 problems in my life perfectly. I know how I'm going to answer them, know what I'm going to do. By the time you got to the last one, I forgot how I solved the first one. So then am I in down the cycle all night long,
Sure.
being repetitive, trying to fix these things. And so God, in all my desperation and what I own, my flesh traits of trying to figure out how to fix my life myself, God gave me the answer that I do very clearly and will declare because I feel the book is bigger than me. I titled The Formula for God Given Peace. And you can find it on Amazon. I
I
think it's
love
free on Kindle,
that.
things like that. But it's titled The Formula for God Given Peace. The equation that's in there is acceptance plus trust equals faith, which actually seems really simple at first. I accept. Here I am. I'm on a podcast with you. I accept. I'm in this situation. Joseph, accept. His brothers just threw him in a hole, right? Not always
Yeah.
a good thing to accept, but we accept. But then we trust in his promises. All things work out for good for those who love God and are called according to his purposes. Not necessarily my own, but where he's leading, because he's got the whole picture already in his mind. He knows what's going to happen next. So for things work out according to his purposes. So
Amen.
accept, trust. Well, all of a sudden, in my desperation, I had some faith. It
Yeah.
wasn't on my shoulders to fix where I was. It was on my shoulders to try to love and walk my way with God through the situation that I was in. And I could biblically tell you a million stories, Joseph being one of them, where life fell apart some more. Potiphar's wife, you end up in prison.
Yeah.
The chief cup baker and the bearer and the baker, all this stuff falling apart. And even 2 years after that, it wasn't till where the Pharaoh found him. Well, all those times he could have not accepted where God had put him. But it says God was with him everywhere he went, simply because he walked in love and he served. This is where I was at. I'm going to do the best of my ability. And God blessed everything he touched. Now, from there, it took 17 years, I'm pretty sure, for him. There's a lot of numbers, know all this, but I might not be right on the 17. But it took quite a few years to go from your brothers threw you in a hole to now you're second in command in Pharaoh.
Yeah.
So the principle behind the book, the formula for God given peace, it taught me how to turn my mind off, how to give things back over to Him. Because to me, surrender is the biggest thing I can do. And I don't want to run this long. I don't
No,
know where our
no,
time
no.
frame is
Finish
at,
your thoughts and then I'll close this
but
out.
yeah, but where we're at and where we're going is his prerogative. Us being
Hmm.
able to willing to walk through it humbly with him is a different story. And my mind used to torment me. And so I would hold on to all of my problems. So surrender, learning what can I do to surrender was the biggest gift God could give me. And it's probably where things started to change because it took it from me figuring it out to here I am with you, God. Let's figure it out together. And granted, I'd known God since I was 5, so it's not like I just met him. But the little story I kind of wanted to end with ATF, the principles, the formula for God given peace, and how surrender is so important. That I heard a story a long time ago, and I really wish I could quote the writer of it, but it's and I'll give the short end version of the story. A little son had a train, and he loved this train. It was his favorite train, best toy he ever had.
Yeah.
He's playing with it one day, and it falls apart. The wheels fall off, and so he is sitting there in tears, all crying, all sad, because to him, his whole little world fell apart. Right? It's broken. Well, his dad's standing there, and he's like, "If you'll just give it to me, I can fix it for you. If you'll just give it to me, I'll fix it for you." Until that child learned to let go of the pain, the surrender, the disappointment, the sadness. Say, okay, Father, I'm going to let you have this and I'm going to trust that you're going to fix this. Man, that story felt so powerful for me in terms of learning to let go of the things that I felt I needed to control.
For
'Cause
sure.
honestly, the only control I really have is sometimes, depending on how hungry I am, I'd say my personality. But my real control is can I choose or not choose God in this situation? So, very
I applaud
simply,
you for
I try
that.
to take every decision to God.
Yeah, I applaud you for that because I did it more like that just stubborn, hard-headed little kid, like yanking your hand away from the father, like, no, no, it's so bad. I'm a little bit more drama queen when it came to like letting things actually go. He had to back me like into a corner for me to finally be like, okay, God, I give it up to you.
Well,
And
and
it's funny because
here's a story I
it
love
just
about
goes two
that.
sides so that people can relate, you know?
Absolutely. The one little aspect that I love about what you just shared is our temper tantrums. I still have them. There are sometimes things aren't working out. I wrote a book on faith, and sometimes we struggle, right? The
Yeah,
devil's very good
it's
at
a
his
walk
job.
for sure.
Exactly. And so there are times that our temper tantrums get the best of us.
Hmm.
But he is our Father in heaven. Just like when my kids throw a temper tantrum, yes, I might correct and I might try to fix the situation, but that doesn't change my love for them, my
Amen.
ability to want to see them grow. And so, like our Father in heaven, me, when I'm struggling and throwing temper tantrums and so frustrated at all we've been doing and it's not working what you
Hmm.
said, God, he's standing there patting me on the head like a father saying, I love you.
Such a good
So
father,
it,
such a good,
I,
generous, kind, loving father. He will always meet people there like that. That is such a
exactly.
heartbeat of this podcast, Living Love, is because people need to know that more. Like it's said, but I think it needs to be stressed so much more. He's already factored in our downfalls, our stupidity, our horrible decisions.
Mm,
He has
yeah,
already played it all out. Like he already knows how, even how he's going to work it out for our good. So there's nothing that you're going to like
absolutely.
slide by God and it's going to be like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, or a surprise. He's not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh man, Ryan had an attitude today. I wasn't expecting that. I was in a good mood till I met him.
Never.
Everything he knows, every hair on my head is accounted for. And
Hmm.
so I can learn, and that's why the armor of God, learning to decipher the different arrows and the different voices. My sheep know my voice. The
Hmm.
more you grow with God, reading the Bible, learning to trust. I'm going to choose to trust you in this situation. Each and every time we take those little tiny baby steps, it helps us decipher which voices are worth listening
Definitely.
to. The devil comes after me every day, all the time. My
Absolutely.
fortitude now has learned that I don't need to listen to that. Doesn't mean he doesn't get the best of me every now and then, but in the reality, I can feel and hear the difference. And so when two arrows are coming at, not necessarily arrow, but two voices are coming at me, there's one that brings life, peace, and love, even if it's not an easy decision. You feel the life and the love and the peace that comes with it. And so you learn to take those baby steps with God
I
and just
love
watch
that.
Him in
I love
action.
you wrapped that up so perfectly because when we dedicate our lives to Christ, we never have that guarantee. I mean, the Satan is on the prowl. He will do absolutely anything to deceive you and get you back on his team. Like every day I wake up, I know that I could just throw it all down at a bar and let it all go again, but I could keep doing the walk and talking the talk and sticking it out, man. And some days, like you mentioned, it's so hard to see that vision clearly. But then there's days like this where we get to center our vision around what we're doing here and around what we have produced with God. And it's so encouraging. And so I would love for you to just share one final thought with the audience, and then we can wrap all this up in prayer.
That sounds great. One final thought that I would say is, after understanding addiction and knowing what that life and the torment and all that the devil can do to wreak havoc on our lives in any given moment, is take it 5 minutes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
AA, things like that, they tell you take it one day at a time. Spiritual warfare is never ending. It's
It's
never going to
so
stop.
real.
And the closer we get to God, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
But the thing is so does our foundation. So the closer we get to God, the stronger we get, but the worse the storms get. So to leave anybody with anything, only with love is love awaken. And sometimes you got to take that love, give it out to other people. And sometimes you can only do it 5 minutes at a time,
Mm-hmm.
because then you might need to take a break and then get back to the next 5 minutes. Our life is a journey. This is a walk. Nothing that we're experiencing without God can't serve some kind of purpose. It's our perspective that we decide whether it's good or bad. But there are some of the worst storms in my life that I've walked through where God took the lead, and they led to the biggest blessings I could ever speak of. But they took my torment and my choice of trust to say, God, I'm going to let you get me there, and doors open.
Amen.
Sometimes they get closed and the devil will come out, but God has other plans, and he knows where he's trying to build us to. So
Gosh, that's
sometimes
such
five
an
minutes at a time.
encouragement. That is such an encouragement. That is something that's going to be a treasure for the audience if you're listening. Let those words just soak into your heart. Let them be a breath of life over you, because, Ryan, you just touched it, that nail on the head right there. I mean, this is such a challenging faith journey, but it's such a worthy faith journey, because the treasures that are lined up for us far outweigh the bad days, like you were saying. And so, if I
Exactly.
could just say anything, it's a huge, resounding thank you for introducing us to your ministry, to what you're doing with the foster kids. I would encourage my lovies over here in my audience to look Ryan's book up on Amazon. Visit fosterkidsunited.com if you can support in any
Yep.
way. That would be an amazing thing to do and just so into, because, like the ministry missions that we all do are, it's to just bring some more glory to God if we can do it. And just to put one
Ha-
person right at the feet of Jesus and have him wrap his arms around them like he did us, and just have them just be breathed into that life that we got, that second chance that all of us, got to embark on. And so I can't even thank you enough as a newfound dedicated brother in Christ. I think that we will definitely have you back on this show. If not, we're going to stay connected, because, like you were mentioning, we might as well have been like split up at birth or something, because the
exactly.
testimonies we could talk about could fill probably another few hours. But for now, I would love to
Absolutely.
thank everyone for tuning into Living Love. Always remember that your passion has a purpose. You're so deeply loved in this space by God and by us, whether it's through these conversations that we have or shared journeys that Ryan, like he just gave us a peek into his life. All these pathways and passions, this space is a place to just sit back and breathe deep, be encouraged, discover the beauty of living this crazy, fully known, fully loved life at the hand of our Creator. And if you aren't in a space right now of feeling fully loved, that's okay. Come back next week for another episode. Until next time, God bless you, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
And thank you guys all, and I hope you have a wonderful week and a strong amen to everything you just said.
Thank you. Have a good one.